everybody, welcome back to the Be That Lawyer with Fretzin podcast. We are here for your entertainment pleasure and hopefully to help you be that lawyer, confident, organized, and a skilled rainmaker, helping you grow your law practice. I've got a very special guest here today. Sonya, how you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. So, you and Chris Dreyer have been amazing sponsors of the show. And I don't know that, everyone knows what you guys are doing. Especially, I want to talk about the Law Her podcast. And I want to just have you share all of your experience being in legal for so many years. And I want to get into that. Of course, we have to start with our quote of the show because that's kind of our jam. And this is a good one. This is one I haven't seen yet. And I absolutely read it. I loved it. I read it twice. Here we go, everybody. If you want to build a ship, don't drum up people to collect wood and don't assign them tasks and work, but rather teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea. So welcome to the show and talk about that quote. You had a lot of different options for the quote and you gave me that one. So I want to pick your brain about it.
Yes, absolutely. I love this entire book, Radical Candor, Kim Scott. It's a fantastic book, especially if you're new to leadership or new to management. But so much of my role as an operations lead is scaling business, scaling processes, scaling systems. But beyond that, it's scaling people. And I have tried to adopt a lot of what I saw with Chris and Steven and how they were leaders for me. And I feel like we have adopted this anti-micromanagement philosophy. And when you're a small business, being in the weeds, rolling up your sleeves, doing the work, that's just part of it, right? But as you grow, those checklists, those go collect wood, go chop wood, that starts to feel like red tape
Yeah.
or bureaucracy. And these things that were supposed to help you grow and scale are now thwarting you. So I always try to just go back to like hire the right people, make sure that you trust them, give them that vision, that goal, that direction, and then send them on their way. So this always reminds me of that, to just paint that big broad picture as often as possible and try to stay out of their business.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Even this morning, someone had mentioned to me this story about, in Rome, there was a, ton of people that it takes to build a cathedral. And there was, everyone's got their different roles. And there was someone laying brick and he was asked, is this your job laying brick? He goes, I'm not laying brick. I'm building a cathedral. So it's like totally bought
Perfect.
into the end game of what this was all about and what each individual's role is to accomplish that goal versus you're a nobody, lay brick and see you tomorrow, which, nobody's going to get behind that like they will the vision.
Yeah. And I think with what we do, I think when you're building a business, building a law firm, the work that we do is important. I think that when you do paint that picture and you do have those goals, it's very, very easy to buy into this.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what we're doing. And I think there's a lot of leaders out there that are so in the weeds. It's so difficult to figure out what the message is, what the path is, and how to convey that down. And so they end up, that's why, coaches and training programs and all this stuff exists because there's such a lack of knowledge and education in the legal space to teach these kinds of skills. And so there's books you can buy, but there's also a lot of, we've had a lot on the show of these coaches who focus on leadership and vision and helping people delegate, et cetera, et cetera. So
100%.
yeah. Sonya Palmer, you're the VP of Operations at Rankings.io. You're the host of the Law Her podcast. I'm just thrilled that you're here. And give everybody a little background because we're going to get into the weeds on so many different aspects of growing and scaling and developing a law practice and a business. I want to make sure everyone knows who they're hearing from.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to keep this short.
You have about an hour, so just lay it out for us. No.
Okay, excellent. I had a photography business that I started, and in trying to market it and trying to get new clients, I ended up doing more marketing for small businesses. People weren't coming to me for photography; they were coming to me like, "Who did your website? Who did your logo?" And so I ended up working with a lot of small businesses. I put my entire town's main street online.
Mm.
And I really had a passion for that. I have a soft spot for small businesses. My dad owned a small business. And that is something that I just became very passionate about, got very good at it. In those early days of Google and search, it was just fun. You could so easily get that organic search up. But through that, I worked for a couple of agencies, and then happenstance, I needed a job, applied for it, and Chris found me. And I started as an SEO specialist, and Chris was one of the first people that like, hey, you're pretty good at your job. What else can you do? And just kept giving me more to do. And I loved that. So eventually became an ops lead, processes, systems, checklists, quality control. How can we serve our clients the best? And have been with him now for almost 9 years,
Yeah. Wow.
growing the business. And yeah, and he had started PIM. He's such an expert in the marketing, personal injury marketing, that he had started this podcast and it was thriving. We're getting really cool guests, and we just kind of noticed that nobody was really telling the unique story that women have in this industry, particularly women who are trying to start their own firms. And there was just a giant gap. And so we started Lawher to just highlight those women in the industry who are killing it,
Yeah.
basically. And it's been fantastic. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal show. I've enjoyed it and have recommended and referred it to a number of the women that I work with. And, it's interesting. When I started coaching lawyers back in 2008 and 9, I was really working with women because they were sort of handed to me by the firm. And it was
Mhm.
typically 20% of the group I would get. And then when I started working only with individual lawyers, it somehow still stayed around 20%, 10 to 20% of my clients were women. Now it's probably close to 40. And I'm just seeing, a massive amount of women flooding into law school and flooding into firms and running their own shows and getting more marketing and rainmaking chops than the men. And I'm just seeing this sort of conversion happen. And I couldn't be happier. And the mindset of women of, oh, well, I'm in the friend zone and I don't feel comfortable talking to people. No, they're figuring out methods to get through and really and build their own stuff.
Mhm.
It's really cool.
Yeah. When we started Lawher, the percentage was, I think, 18% of women were partners in law firms. And just in the 2, 3 years that we've been recording, that is now 22. So
Mm.
we're definitely on the right track.
Yeah. And then
Still more to
going out
do.
on their own, right? And starting their own firms. It's like a record number of women going out and saying, look, I don't need to, work with these men, or I don't need to, be a part of this firm and take orders. I can run my own show. It's not rocket science.
Absolutely. I really encourage it too. I encourage as many people to own small businesses as possible, but I do think that the pandemic changed things for a lot of women, changed things for people in general, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think going digital, the tools, AI, all of that has made it easier. And flexibility, the autonomy. I don't think people are afraid of hard work. They just that Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 is really hard to commit to.
Yeah.
When you have kids, when you have a family, when you're trying to take care of older parents, whatever sort of is happening in your life. And they were willing to sort of take that chance, start their own business so that they would have that agency and that autonomy over their own schedules.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's really, really amazing.
And why is it so important for women to step up into leadership roles, whether that's on their own or that's within a mid-market big firm?
It's a really great question. I think I don't think that it's like it's a nice thing to do or it's the politically correct thing to do. I think it's what's best for the business, especially within law firms, because law firms serve all different types of people and clients, different backgrounds, different perspectives, ways of life, different cultures. And when you can mirror that on your own staff and on your own leadership team so that those same perspectives are being considered and thought about, it just helps you take better care of your clients,
Mm.
which I think is the foundation of any successful business is how well you can serve your clients and how well you can produce results for them or uh, results. Um, so I do think that, again, I don't even think that it's the right thing to do because it is, but I think it's what helps grow the business are those different diverse perspectives.
Yeah. And I mean, outside of the pandemic, what I'm feeling is a desire from women to explore leadership roles, to step up and realize, it's not a man's world and there's opportunities for everybody. They're feeling either more on level playing field than maybe in the past where like it was the glad handing old white guy at the golf club that was buying drinks, and that was like what was sort of the rainmaker image. And now I think women are realizing that's sort of done or kind of done, and like you can network in a more traditional sense, you can market in a more traditional sense and get everything and more than what other men are doing in the industry.
Yes, 100%. BB fellows on Law Her. And you'll hear women say this all the time. I used to say, fake it till you make it. I'll pretend I'll go on the golf course and da 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 da. And BB said, no, be yourself.
Yeah.
Be authentic. And I think that resonated so much. And I do think more women are taking that advice because by being themselves and by being authentic, there's value there. They don't have to pretend to be like the men. They have their own unique value, just like men do. And I think that that's definitely, and I do think, again, the pandemic, what was once local is now global. And you have so many more options for the people that you want to work with, that sort of those stereotypes are less prominent or less powerful than they used to be. And people want options. If I'm a mom who's been injured, I might want to talk to a mom, and I
Yeah.
think that's the pandemic really opened up all of those channels. We went online, we realized there's a world way beyond our local communities.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are a lot of lawyers listening to this show, many of whom are solo small firm, and there's some big firm, folks, individuals. Everybody's motivated to grow. That they wouldn't be listening to the show if they weren't. But I know that there's some confusion between business development, marketing, branding, and where to spend the money because SEO isn't for everybody, pay per clicks isn't everybody, social media should be for most people, but maybe isn't. So where should lawyers that want to build their law practice or their firm, where should they start thinking about where to invest time and energy and money into marketing?
Wherever they feel comfortable.
Okay.
I think the brand will develop. I think a lot of attorneys, when they're starting, get really focused on their logo and their brand and what's it say. And I think you got to start somewhere. But content is king. It always has been. It always will be. It's just changing. So I think if you're an attorney, you really like to write blogs, write articles, write news, write whatever you can. If you're comfortable in front of a camera, hire a videographer, follow you around. Okay. Just create that kind of content. A podcast is a great way to create content. Either start your own or find someone that can get you on those podcasts. Generate that content any way that you can. You can put that
Yeah.
on your website. You can put that on your social, and it compounds. You have that content forever. Yeah, it might need updated. There might be some evergreen stuff that you have to pluck out, but that it only multiplies. And I think that if people go, I don't want to go on TikTok, I don't want to be on camera, that's fine. You don't have to. It's effective, but you can write really great articles that Google will pick up. You can go and talk on Reddit, offer your expertise. So whatever you really feel like your strength is, start there. And
Yeah.
then hire people to fill those gaps in, right?
Yeah.
To do the stuff that's sort of trending or popular or producing the highest ROI.
Right, right. And there's a lot of do-it-yourself stuff, especially with ChatGPT. I mean, I was talking to a client yesterday, he's in the divorce space, and we're like, where do we get started? I'm like take what are the top 10 issues that you see every day? What are the top 10 questions that you get as a family law attorney? Put them into ChatGPT. It's going to give you 10 answers, right? Make sure they're right. And then each of those points could be made into a post. So you've got 10 posts, 10 weeks with doing what? That took 5 minutes, right? And is that going to be the same as writing original content or putting yourself on camera? No, it's not the same, but sometimes we just need to get started and get the car rolling, and then you can start speeding up.
Absolutely. I think for as much talk as AI and ChatGPT gets, I actually think it's being underutilized.
Well, yeah, for sure it's being underutilized. And there's a lot of fear around
Mhm.
new, and there's a lot of fear around, is it going to take what I'm saying and expose me, or is it going to be picked up, like is Google picking up articles that are being generated by AI and not giving them the same attention or traction? It's like if my teenager decides to use ChatGPT to write his paper,
Mhm.
he's going to get found out at school and he's going to get in trouble. So I think people are nervous about using new technology like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think there are dangers within AI. Don't get me wrong. I worry more about privacy protections than anything else versus it taking jobs of creators or artists or something like that. You have to do your due diligence, especially within the legal field, to make sure that what it is saying is accurate.
Yeah.
But if you talk to ChatGPT the way you might a coach or something, and you use it to develop the prompt. Hey, I had a case. This is what happened. This is what the client was kind of telling me. This is what I want the goal to be. Uh, Things like that can spark inspiration. And then you just take what it gives you and put it back in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think eventually you can get something that's unique.
You just have
So,
to refine it. That's the thing people don't realize. You put in a prompt, it's going to give you something good. Then you say, "Hey, do this again, but," and then add what you want, my voice, or you want it done for small firms, not mid-market, or whatever it might be that you want to temper it. And it just keeps pumping better and better and better information that you can then copy and paste and utilize how you see fit. But it's kind of a no-brainer. But again, what's nice about social media from a marketing perspective, it's really leveled the playing field, where it used to just be the big firm and the big money people could do something and you couldn't. And now I think if you can get into it, and whether you delegate or do it yourself, like you can get a lot more traction without a big budget.
yeah, Sarah Williams called it the great equalizer. And
Yeah.
I think that was a perfect definition for it.
Yeah. And I said recently, I wrote an article for Above the Law, and it's like you're either in the game or you're sitting on the sidelines. You make
Mhm.
either way. You make a choice of what you want to do, and it's not complicated to learn. Find me, find a friend, someone can help you get half an hour, get comfortable enough to use it on a regular basis.
Absolutely. Ignore the bells and whistles for now. Just
Hmm.
start somewhere. Just
Yeah.
post something.
So I've got an angle I want to take this conversation. It's a little different than where we've been. It's around people. You're dealing with a lot of people. You're delegating. You're scale. We're talking about scaling. From a one person bringing in their first associate to the amount of work that's being pumped at lawyers right now in the U.S. and their inability to get it done because work isn't being pushed down; it's actually being pushed up in some instances because
Mhm.
they can't find talent. So, what are some things that you have seen in your time working in legal to develop talent and help scale talent, scale people, however we want to look at that?
You have to think about hiring way earlier than you think that you need to.
Okay.
Once you feel the need to have people, it's too late. I think the first thing any firm, agency, business is what is your hiring process? Who's going to own that? Who's going to do that? Most of the time in the early days, it's going to be the owner. I think that's great. Having that process of how you're going to find talent, hire them, retain them, and then termination process as well. So often, I think attorneys and leaders in the early stages of businesses, they hold on to people way too long.
Hmm.
And just having those processes in place will take the feeling, will take the emotion out of it. And that will significantly help scale. And then I think with leaders having that vision, what are your actual core values? Not the pretty things you want to post on the website, but what do you live by? Establish that stuff. You can change it, right? Like it's going to evolve, but establish that. Hire the people who are going to live by that the same way that you are, right? Use those to find those people. And then, yeah, let people do their jobs. Get people that you trust, paint that picture for them, and then send them on their way.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
But do you have an example of either a hiring or an onboarding process or element of a process that you do that you recommend?
Yeah, we do one-way video interviews. So if someone applies, we immediately send them 3 to 5 questions that they answer on camera, just
Mm.
like this. It's just them. The questions aren't hard. They're pretty generic, to be honest. Hey, what do you like? Walk us through your resume. But I have found it's a very powerful check because this is awkward. And if they will do it, they really want to work here. Like they're gonna, all right, I'm gonna put myself out there. I'm gonna remove myself from my comfort zone. I'm gonna talk to this camera for 10 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
And just that sort of like gumption is enough for me probably then to interview them. If they
Okay.
don't make a fool of themselves in that one way, just that they did it, that they want to work at rankings. And we've been doing it for years and it has helped too. It's nice as like a recruiting tool too, because I can send it to Chris. He can provide feedback and you don't have people in interviews and meetings all the time. And then we go back, oh, hey, we need to hire for this position. And we're thinking, oh, remember that person? And we can pull their video interview up and show it to the new parties, the new hiring managers. It's something that we've kept for a long time. It's worked really, really well for us.
Okay. And then before you actually make a hire, do you have them do any kind of like, let's say their interview, some people interview well, right? And some people interview well and it's kind of, they're just good at that piece, but they're not necessarily great at their job. Do you give them a project to do or anything to kind of test the waters before you pull the trigger?
Yeah, and we typically pay them for it too.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we'll enter into some sort of pilot or freelance something to test them. Writers is probably where this is the most applicable. When you're going to write at rankings, we're looking for very qualified individuals. And so we put them through a pretty rigorous, we need 3 to 5 samples, but we pay them for it.
Mm-hmm.
So
No, I love
that
that.
has
But then you can test them out. So it comes back and it's absolute trash. Wow, we just saved ourselves from this. And I think for lawyers too, that giving a lawyer something to do to work on a brief, to take something and demonstrate that they can execute, it comes back and it's loaded with grammatical errors, or it's just not what you had asked for. That's going to save you from a hire that could have been an absolute disaster. So I think there's so many things to kind of protect yourself to make a good hire because you have to do it quickly, right? It's like quick to
Mhm.
hire, slow to fire,
Yep.
slow to hire, quick to fire. Sorry, rewind. And so having a good
Quick to
process for the
both.
hiring. Then how about onboarding and helping to train? Because I think what happens in other instances, you do a great job on the hire, and then you go, there's your desk, there's your phone, we'll start throwing work your way, and they're like, head explode, visual.
Yep. 30, 60, 90. Every person that comes onto the team has a 30, 60, 90-day ramp. We usually allow them to influence it. So
Okay.
we will have a standard for whatever the position is, a specialist, manager, director. What does their first 30 days look like? 60, 90. But we allow, like, what do you think your 30, 60, 90 should be? And that will tell us a lot about the
Mm,
individual that we're working with. And I think everyone's I don't know that we state this, maybe we need to more, but if you get to the end of that 90 days and it's not, we're going to part ways, right? There's no use in sort of dragging that out. I don't know that's ever happened. Usually everybody exceeds expectations, but yes, have some type of ramp, even if it's just like a generic understand our communication software,
yeah.
right? No, we're just a very simple, basic thing that you can add. Super important those first 90 days. KPIs too, having those established, an idea of what they're going to look like for different roles within a firm is also extremely important. You can
Yeah.
measure that as you grow and you don't talk to so and so every day. You can go and look and see if they're on the right track.
Yeah. And so I know I had asked you in sort of the off interview about some challenges you had, and the first time you fired someone, it sounds like it didn't go so great. But I mean, I'd love to hear what that experience was, and then also how your company does it now, and what you could teach lawyers about removing someone that isn't really a fit.
Terrible.
Yeah.
It was hard
Oh, it
then.
isn't
It's
easy and
not,
fun
it's
to
not
do?
any easy now. I've never relished it.
No, no.
I used to believe that like everyone could be rehabilitated, you
Yeah.
know? And not long into being a manager and being a leader, I realized that that was not true. I think for me, um, an underperforming employee is a liability in a lot of different ways, especially to small firms. And it's not just that, they are underperforming. They're stealing from the company. They're stealing from you. they are robbing the good employees around them.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that are picking up the slack, right? It's the people that are now given 110, 120, 150% because someone's not showing up, and that made it much easier on
Yeah.
their behalf. This person's got to go.
And
And
then
that
what's the
does.
exit on that? Like what's the I mean, the brief conversation and how is that set up so that it's because it's hurting people around them, it's hurting the business. Lawyers, to your point, are dragging this out way too long because that person is doing some work and they don't want that work to fall on them. They don't have anybody lined up.
Yeah, I always want to make room for personal things. People go through stuff, right? That happens. Good performers are going to go through things. So I try to foster an environment where those good employees that are currently struggling can come to me and be like, "Hey, I'm struggling," or I need to take the day, I need to take the week, and we're going to figure that out. You
Yeah.
cool? We'll cover it. You 2 weeks PTO. You're gone. It's cool. Like, it's great to really try to work with good employees who are going through something like that's different.
Hmm.
But then I'm going to go back to Kim Scott's book. I see it, I'm saying something. If there's a weird comment that happens in Slack or somebody's quality is dipped, I'm pulling them into a conversation. Hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
I want to acknowledge it immediately, both so that we can address it and flush it out and figure it out, but that they know I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
And then we do have a formal process. It's a verbal warning. Then there's a PIP, performance improvement plan,
Yep.
usually 30 days. They don't succeed through that, we terminate.
Yeah.
And
And
having
all
a,
expectations have been laid out, so it's not a surprise to
yes,
anybody, and you're
no,
keeping an eye on them over the 30 to see,
yeah,
are they actually trying to achieve, or are they just looking for a job at that point because they know the writing
yep.
is on the wall, right? So you got to pay attention for the 30 days.
You don't want people to feel like a coconut can fall on their heads, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You want them to see it coming miles and miles and miles
Yeah.
away.
Well, and also, I mean, maybe for law firms, it's a little different in the sense that if they're managing clients and there's things that you may have to get taken back to you because letting them go when they still have all these relationships or things going on could be sticky too. So think about it in your own situation and take what you can from it. But everything you've shared, Sonia, has been amazing. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's roll on to now. This is going to be we're calling this segment shameless promotion, but it's for a good cause, everybody, because between Rankings.io and the Law Her podcast, there's a lot of value for you or for people you know. So let's talk about the PIM podcast first, and then we can move on to the other.
Yeah, absolutely. So Pim is Chris Dreyer's podcast, and he focuses on personal injury marketing. I I think marketing and PI is probably the most competitive. I think I've heard that car insurance is the only other term that's the most competitive. So if you can do marketing and PI, you can do
If you're
anything.
Flo from
Oh yeah.
Progressive, right? There's only
Oh
one
yeah.
thing.
And Chris is the best at it. He just has this amazing knack and understands the landscape and the industry so well. And he interviews a guest every week. We've had some really, really incredible guests, some really, really powerhouse attorneys. It's a if you are wanting to grow your own business or be a part of a thriving firm, it is a must listen.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, Chris is fun too. He's a great host.
Yes, he is. I've been on the show. It's always a hoot, and I've had him on mine. It's we always have a good time together. And then let's talk a little bit about Rankings.io and then the Law Her podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. So Rankings is the company that it's my day job. I only moonlight as a podcast host.
Right, right.
But yeah, we are committed to growing personal injury law firms. We specialize in search engine marketing in the legal industry, trying to create cases and leads for
Yeah,
lawyers. We are obsessive about it. And then, yeah, LawHer is the podcast that I host. It is dedicated to women in the legal industry, not just PI, but all aspects, all places. It is a unique journey that there's definitely a camaraderie within, and we feature women who are trying to grow, trying to manage, maintain life. And we get to talk a lot more about about business, about mindset, about families. Had some really, really, really good guests. And season 3 is coming out in February.
Nice, nice, awesome. And I just also want to just give a quick plug to the Rainmakers Roundtable, the peer advisory groups that I'm running. Again, if you're a managing partner, law firm leader, equity partner, doing a million plus, want to be surrounded by other successful attorneys to talk shop on a regular basis, you're going to want to check out my website, fretzin.com, and learn more about that. Happy to have you audit or talk to me directly. Thank you so much, Sonya. This has been a blast. I knew it was. Like, you're just such a consummate professional between your podcast and the work you do at Rankings. I knew this was going to be great. And again, hopefully everybody got some great takeaways and things that are going to help them in their pursuit of excellence and growing a law practice. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, really my pleasure. And thank you everybody for spending time with Sonya and I today on the Be That Lawyer with Fretzin podcast. You guys have every opportunity in the world to grow and scale and live the best lawyer's life that you can. You just have to consider that you don't have to do it all yourself, right? There's people out there that can support you. There's books and other things that you can utilize to learn the skills that are going to get you to the next level. So be that lawyer, everybody, confident, organized, and a skilled rainmaker. Take care, be safe, be well. Talk again soon.